Hi, I'm Tessa, a veteran educator working in the field of special education.
And I'm Kim, mom of two autistic boys and a late diagnosed autistic person myself.
And welcome to Totally Over the Spectrum, where we dive into embracing autism through understanding and support.
Hi, and welcome to episode 55, where we're talking about rejection sensitive dysphoria.
All right, RSD. When we actually spoke about this and I started to do my research, there was only one clinical study that I could come across, and that was from Cleveland. There is not much information out there on this. So to me, this was fascinating in itself. And I think we need to start off with the definition and the four components or a few components that I found that relates to this. And it says it is an intense emotional pain from perceived rejection or failure. Would you agree with that?
Almost. There
Okay.
are a few different definitions out there. It is certainly characterized by strong emotional reactions, but it could be to perceived rejection or real rejection, not just perceived.
Okay. And the components that I have that pretty much categorize this is intense emotional pain, low self-esteem, people-pleasing, social withdrawal, and perfectionism. And I think we have just discussed each and every one of these components in previous episodes. So it's kind of like they've taken all of these components and said, actually, these, when you consistently experience these, they are the criterias for RSD. Would you agree with that?
It's not an official diagnosis in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, but it is commonly recognized in the community, and it's usually talked about in association with ADHD.
It is. So I'm so glad you said that, because all of the research that I did at first came up with ADHD. So I really had to dig and be able to utilize those research tools and keywords in order to narrow my research down and to get a lot more, which still left me with not much.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap with ADHD and autism. A lot of people have both, but I don't have ADHD, and I have every single one of the things that you mentioned for RSD, every single one. So it is not solely an ADHD thing. And if you read about people's experiences in the autistic community, it's also quite apparent. So yeah, it's often described as like people telling you that you're too sensitive.
Okay.
Or criticism or feedback can feel like rejection, and it's not just, oh, I feel rejected. It's intense. It's you could get really angry about it, or really embarrassed, or with severe anxiety or depression from it, or it could even be a physiological response, like a physical response where you feel sick to your stomach, like you've been punched in the stomach. So it isn't a small thing. Even someone giving you sort of a neutral reaction,
Okay.
you might perceive that as rejection. If it's not what you were expecting, if you're expecting more of a response, even a neutral response, because your brain is constantly imagining this rejection, even if it's not actually there. And sometimes it is. But the replaying conversations in your head,
Mm-hmm.
I've said this before, I haven't met a single autistic person that doesn't do that. Going out of people pleasing. So that's when you do go out of your way to please others, even at your own expense. Very much an autistic trait as well for a lot of autistic people.
A lower self-esteem, and I can see that as being, yes, very common, just because of the constant rejections. And always constantly being told that you're wrong or there's something wrong with you, right? So I get that piece, the people pleasing, the social withdrawal, the perfectionism. I get all of these pieces, but it was fascinating to me that it is now becoming more of a consensus that it is, you know, kind of heading towards the line of being a diagnosis unto itself.
I don't know if our listeners can hear your cat howling in the background.
Yeah, I had to keep my eye out just to make sure he didn't jump up on the table and knock the
Everything.
microphone off. Or, oh yeah, because he has to be social, like he has to be right in my face, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Certainly, RSD was more pronounced for me when I was younger, like as a teenager and a young adult. It was severe. And I think when you hit perimenopause, how much you care about other people's opinions kind of dries up with your ovaries a little bit. So at some point, some of your list becomes a little less important as you get older. The fear of failure, of making mistakes, or I'm still very, very sensitive to criticism, especially self-criticism. That is excruciatingly painful for me. And that could be perceived criticism. Like, I will imagine that I am going to get criticized for something.
Wow.
Cat.
Yep.
He's feeling my
usually
pain.
Oh yeah, he is. He's like, where is Kimberly? I can hear her, but I can't see her.
I missed my cuddle time. So I will have this fear of rejection from something that hasn't happened and may potentially never happen. But I will imagine that it's a possibility that it could happen. So why do so many neurodivergent people have RSD? Like you said, we experience rejection more than neurotypical people do at a very early age. And generally there are three responses, right? There's that fight response, that emotional outburst response, or there's avoidance, so you build up your wall, protect yourself from other people, or fawning, which is people pleasing. And all of those are trauma responses.
Yep. And I think the fight comes from not having developed those emotional regulation skills, right? Which we've also spoken about in different episodes.
Repeated rejection is traumatic. And it makes you hyper aware of any situation that might lead to rejection, and it becomes a survival instinct. Like it probably sounds ridiculous because you're not going to perish from rejection, but your brain doesn't recognize that the trauma isn't life-threatening.
Yep. So this is when explicit teaching comes into place to build those strategies into realizing what is real and what is perceived, and also promoting that mindfulness awareness is going to be crucial in helping deal with some of RSD.
So because there's no official diagnosis, there's also no official strategies for dealing with RSD.
No, I'm just going to break down strategies onto each single component that kind of makes up all of this, right? So there are strategies that you can use for low self-esteem, for people pleasing, for social withdrawal, perfectionism, right? So you can put individual strategies into place, but not collectively. No.
I only had 3 strategies. I didn't actually break them all down because I think that it all overlaps.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
But the first thing that I did, and you probably have this, is because I'm sure you'd have it down under mindfulness, is that the first thing you have to do is to stop and recognize that the situation is probably not as profoundly dire as you thought it was. That's the first thing.
Yep, absolutely.
There are going to be lots of interactions where you do experience outright rejection and in relationships and severe criticism. That is going to happen. But often your perception of rejection is different than what was actually intended. And of course I like examples. So if I had plans to go out for dinner with you, and you canceled those plans at the last minute, and the reason you gave me was you're not feeling well, I might immediately think she just doesn't want to see me. She's making an excuse. And I need to stop and think that through. It's like catastrophic thinking and anxiety. You need to stop and question what you're feeling. And I can say to myself, I know that Tessa cares about me, but what if I've done something wrong and now she's mad at me and now she's never going to talk to me again, and it becomes really easy to spiral that.
Mm-hmm.
So I can stop and I can say to you, I'm worried that I've done something wrong. And as a friend, you can reassure me that I haven't done anything wrong. And if you were actually upset with me, you would talk to me about it as functional adults in a healthy relationship. But also, as a self-professed foodie, you would not miss the opportunity to try a new restaurant if you were not feeling very poorly.
Yeah.
So that last part is also an important thought because it's outside of me. And I can't make that personal.
Yep. It's starting to go what's real and what's not. And you broke it down into, this is me perceiving everything. And then when you came to, that's not me, that's Tess. Would Tess really miss an opportunity to go and try a new place? No, she wouldn't. So that's real.
And you need to talk yourself through it.
Yep.
And say, if she was mad at me, I know her well enough that she would say, hey, I'm upset with you. She wouldn't make an excuse to say, I'm not feeling well. That's not what she would do. And if you double booked or something else happened, you'd be like, oh my goodness, I double booked. I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to cancel. And then we would reschedule it. So I know you well enough to know what your behavior is.
Mm-hmm.
To know that thinking, what I am thinking, that is not correct. And I just need to put the brakes on it and say, that is not what's happening. You need to stop.
And that is also having a good awareness of your social support, right? Who those people are, how explicitly you trust them on certain things, right? And you've got to. I often say to people, the strategy I always use is talk it out, because when you actually physically speak it out and you hear it, you're able to follow that far more effectively. Because if you keep it in your mind consistently, you tend to have a lot of invading thoughts that come in far more frequently than actually speaking it out. And my cat is being very annoying.
I know. It's so funny to me, though. You're absolutely right. And the next one that I have down is actually venting, because part of my reaction could be immediate anger, because that is one of my reactions that I can have. So even I don't want to be angry at you for something you haven't done. So even talking to another friend about a situation, you can let it out. You can rant it out. It helps to calm your nervous system, and then you're open to hearing someone else's perspective about the situation. And if you have a good network of people, they're going to say, I'm not sure that that's what Tessa's doing right now. And they will help you think through the situation if you were unable to do that on your own, until that becomes something that you're able to do on your own. Just hearing another voice tell you, no, Tessa's not mad at you, that can be very helpful. And if you don't have another person that you feel comfortable doing that with, you can vent it out in writing. You can write Tessa a long letter, letting all your emotions out, and then delete it, because it's not real.
Yep. So, and that was one of my other strategies, is writing it out.
Yeah. It's
talking it out and writing it out. Just
walking around venting to yourself. That's okay. That is helpful. So your brain needs to let out that frustration and that anger and that hurt that you're feeling.
Yep. And all of those chemical responses are then have somewhere to be released, and you're going to start to calm physically, emotionally, and mentally.
The last strategy that I have that I use is that I also try to imagine the best case scenario when something happens. So say I wasn't invited to an event that my friend was having. I could immediately feel rejected, excluded, and all the things. And if I try to think of the best possible intent behind it, like maybe that person hosting the event knew that I had already had an overwhelming week and I needed to hibernate for the weekend. And if they invited me, I would feel that people pleasing need to go and push through it, even though that might not be what's best for me. So like, it's just putting a positive spin, because that is possible. That is a possible scenario.
It is. It is a possible scenario, but this is when open and effective communication is crucial, right? Having that safety network to be able to have that open dialogue is what's going to really, really help with situations like that. Um, yeah. So being able to talk to those people, being able to just to, just to have and be honest, that is going to really help build those bridges and, build all of these strategies into place.
I'm going to give a real world example. So Peter was in grade 9. And for the first week of school, I drove him to school because grade 9 was a huge transition and he's a flight risk. So I was too nervous to put him on a bus. So I was dropping him off every day for the first week until I could build up my ability to tolerate putting him on a bus. So I had called the bus company and let them know that I would be dropping him off and picking him up so he wouldn't be on the bus for the first week. But the first day of the second week, when I went to get him on the bus driver ripped a strip off of me because he was so livid, and he was yelling at me, and he said, I was here every day last week and you weren't here, and you need to be out here 5 minutes before, and all of that stuff. And I could have had lots of reactions to that. I could have been angry because I did the right thing. I actually called and informed them, but obviously the bus company did not inform the driver. So I immediately understood that there was a communication breakdown and that I had done the right thing. So I just let him yell at me. And then I apologized. And I didn't give excuse. I didn't say, but I didn't. I just let him get it out. And I said, I'm so sorry. And he felt very satisfied with himself because he had let it out and he had yelled at me. And I said, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. The second day he picked Peter up, I said, I just wanted to apologize again for the miscommunication. I actually told the bus company that I would be dropping him off all week, and I'm sorry they didn't relay that to you. I should probably have come out and let you know myself. I didn't realize that they didn't communicate with their drivers that well. And I could see that he was upset that he had yelled at me for no reason, but he couldn't have heard me the first day. He was too wound up. But I chose not to take that personally. I chose to build a relationship because I also knew that he would be driving Peter every day. And if he was angry at me, that could translate to how well he treated Peter. Mm-hmm. So I chose to say, okay, I'm sorry, and let that go until I had an opportunity for him to be calmed down and for me to say, okay, this is what actually happened. And then we bonded. We bonded over dispatch not being, like the bus company not doing their job. And every day that Peter was away, I would go out and wait for the bus to come and say, Peter's not coming today. I didn't even bother telling the company anymore. I just went straight out and I said, Peter's not coming today. He's not feeling well. And I thought I would come out and tell you because I know you're not going to get that information. And it became a running joke with us. And he was one of the best drivers that Peter's had in high school.
Because you were able to understand the importance of allowing this person to vent and the impact it was going to have if that negative interaction was to occur.
What was really important was that I didn't take it personally in the moment. And that is a very hard thing that comes with a lot of practice.
It is extremely hard. It is extremely hard whether you're neurodivergent or neurotypical, right?
Because my body still feels it.
Yep.
But to get your brain to go, no, just, it's you're okay. Everything's going to be okay. he's angry. He's not actually angry at you. He just doesn't have all the information.
It's detaching from the ego, which is really, really hard to do. And it's a key component of mindfulness, right? Is one of the strategies that I was using. So this is it's not a heavy subject. It's I think it's taking real life and to all the different aspects in a person with autism really feels on a day-to-day basis, and saying, in a nutshell, this is what it is. This is what you experience on a daily basis. And as a result of dealing with life on a day-to-day basis.
Oh, this is just one part.
I know.
It's a lot. It is a lot every day.
So I think you've pretty much covered all the strategies, and the only other one that it comes up as a strategy or a coping or support is therapy, but it has to be specific, right? Cognitive behavior therapy is going to be one that I would suggest, but we've also spoken about it in the past as it being modified to a person with autism, a person who has experience in with autism, a therapist dealing with autism, and knows how to navigate cognitive behavior therapy far more effectively to suit that person.
Yeah. I can't afford a therapist. I just have to be my own therapist.
Yeah, you can call and vent, or I can send you the cat or the dog whenever you need.
I know.
Yeah. So he's finally sat down. So
Animal therapy is helpful.
Yeah,
and I love other people's animals because then I don't have to take care of them.
So there you go. Well, I'm glad we explored this one, because this was challenging for me to come up with accurate research on it, but it was also, I was like, aha, it's a nutshell. So thank you for suggesting that.
I mean, I thought it was an interesting one, and I think doing this podcast, like, look at all of the things, all of the components that you don't know about. Like, I've only had my diagnosis for a couple of years, and I've only learned about autism and how it relates to my kids, but since they don't really have anxiety, learning all of that to support myself, pathological demand avoidance, rejection sensitive dysphoria, the perfectionism, all of those things. So, yeah, it's a lot. You gotta stop and take a deep breath some days.
Yep. And I think for me, this journey is just helping me to be a better human, a better person. So yeah, I love it.
That's lovely.
Thank you.
Actually.
Yeah. You're welcome.
All right.
Anyway.
Well, again, thank you to everyone who's made it to the end. I appreciate that, and we'll see you in the next one.
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in. If you know someone who might find this episode helpful, feel free to share. Also, check out our website and socials linked in the description.